Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me on the program. We should not be overly confident that we really have a self-sustaining recovery fully in place just yet. One of the lessons from the global financial crisis back from 2007 to 2009 was the danger of giving too little stimulus to the economy in that early stage of recovery. And we're still very much in that early stage. We're short about 9 million jobs relative to where we were last year at this time. So if we pull the plug and say, well, the stock market's at record highs, that must mean we're back in business, the risk is that, in fact, the economy could stall out. And when we look at some of the latest economic data points, we get further confirmation that there is a little bit of a stall or a stagnation happening at the moment. The jobs engine has started to sputter. Retail sales have fallen into contraction over the last couple of months. So really there is some very important stimulus that needs to be delivered. And most important, my colleague Eric already highlighted, is this expiration of jobless benefits. That can really push some households that are barely breaking even into some very damaging territory if we get to the point where talks break down and we're not re-extending some of those stimulus payments and unemployment benefits.
Eric, based on your reporting, building on what Carl was saying about the idea that we do need, the risk here is doing too little, the lesson from the financial crisis, does that message seem to be resonating with Republicans right now who are concerned about this $1.9 trillion price tag?
No, not really, not at all. They spent last week all the different markups I watched and the statements that came out pretty much attacking this bill from all sides. There's really a sense that it's spending too much. They believe that not enough data has come out about the money from the last stimulus bill, which was the $900 billion that was enacted in December. So really the messaging, with the exception of a few like Susan Collins saying they might be willing to go above the $600 billion mark that she had put out there, which President Biden had said it was too low. For the most part, we're seeing really no buy-in from the Republicans on this.
So, Carl, what would your message be to those folks who say, hey, wait a second, we're concerned about $1.9 trillion, that's too much money. We're now concerned about deficit spending in a way that potentially we weren't a few years ago. What would your message to them be about the importance of this package?
Well, I think it's a little hypocritical for folks who voted for the very expensive Trump tax cuts back about 2 years ago to suddenly have this renewed interest in deficits when we're in the middle of a very trying economic climate. And so the stimulus package certainly does increase deficit and debt levels. There's a very mild reaction in the market. So interest rates are starting to go a little bit higher, but certainly not by any degree to a pace or level that would be concerning that suddenly we've spent beyond our limits in the U.S. economy. The best way to manage those debt levels in the future is to get the economy back in fighting form and back to full employment as quickly as possible. So just to put some numbers around that, as we think about the unemployment rate, as it was last reported, was 6.3%. That doesn't sound particularly terrible. But what we've discovered is that a tremendous amount of people have dropped out of the labor force throughout the COVID-19 crisis. And when you drop out of the labor force, when you're not looking for a job, you're not counted among the ranks of the unemployed. So that parent that now has quit their job and is staying home because kids are doing remote learning, or someone with a health condition who has maybe lost a job but isn't looking because they're afraid of being infected because they haven't gotten a vaccination yet, or someone who is simply so discouraged about the economic outlook that they think it will be kind of hopeless given their skill set to try to find a job, those individuals are not counted among the ranks of the unemployed. So when I tell you 6.3% unemployment, if we take all those folks I just described and put them back into the labor market and do count them as unemployed, we'd be looking at an unemployment rate somewhere between 9 and 10%. And that is a very severe economic crisis when we're looking at magnitude of unemployment at that level.
Yeah, so important to keep in mind that headline number doesn't tell anywhere close to the entire story. Eric, I want to end it with you and just ask the basic question. With Democrats controlling the Senate by the slimmest of majorities possible, why does it even matter that they get Republicans on board? Can't they just push this through?
Well, again, you have some moderate senators like Joe Manchin, Sinema, and also John Tester, who, they've spent a lot of their career saying they want to work with Republicans. They pride themselves on it, and probably their reelection depends on showing that. So, there's going to be probably at least another attempt in the Senate to try to get some Republicans on board. But yeah, at the end of the day, perhaps it doesn't matter. But, there are going to be changes. I would predict the minimum wage falls off at this point just because of the way that Manchin and Sinema have said it's a non-starter for them.
Bloomberg's Eric Wasson and Carl Riccadonna. Guys, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate you joining us this afternoon.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.